My dear brothers, the topic that today I'll be addressing is called guarding one's eyes and one's ears in the modern era. Now, my beloved Mona has mentioned, I will try and touch quite deeply on the profound vice that we have in our society called pornographic material that is unfortunately in our midst to quite an extensive degree. Because of the sanctity of the place that we find ourselves in, Allah's house, I will try to be as euphemistic with my words as possible. And I'll try not to be too graphic with what I discuss because of respect of the sanctity of the masjid. But I hope that you all support me in understanding the importance of the topic and the need that we need to address it at this juncture. Allah mentions in the Holy Quran in Surah An-Nur, verse 30 and verse 31. Say, O Rasulullah, to the believing men, and then later to the believing women, to lower your gaze. This ayat of the noble Quran has immeasurable relevance in today's day. It has unprecedented relevance in the current time that we find ourselves in. This world that we find ourselves in is incessantly calling upon us to look. Look on the screen, look on the billboard, look on the cell phone, look around you, and increasingly we are now having to look down. We're increasingly having to lower our gaze as the injunction was made in the Quran. And I ask you to look upon the place you find yourself in now. Understand the peace and tranquility that has enveloped you all here now, because you've entered this place. Allah's sacred place. I remember 20 years ago, 20 years back in my life, when I was still in school, high school, I felt whenever I entered the masjid about board time, it was as if I was getting a breath of fresh air after suffocating in the dunya. That's how it felt. That was 20 years ago. And I went to a Muslim school. So I understand if everyone here feels like in the current dunya they find themselves feeling suffocated. And then shukr to Almighty Allah, we've got these places to come to. We've got these places to enter. We feel like we're getting some oxygen again. That rejuvenates the heart and rejuvenates the soul. Alhamdulillah. We are still drinking from the hands of our pious predecessors. We're visiting beautiful places like our masjid, like this masjid, Muslim masjid, Khaliliya masjid, beautiful places that have been constructed with pious and noble intentions. And we're still reaping its rewards now. To this day. Muhammad reward those people that were instrumental in their construction. We have in our history, in our tradition, beautiful places that are in our name. There are places like the Alhambra Palace in Andalusia, the Taj Mahal in India. We've got beautiful books and kitabs that are written in gold. Whenever Almighty Allah's name was written in it, it was written in gold. Whenever Rasulullah's name was written in it, it was written in gold and silver. What does this teach us? I mean, in our history, even bathhouses were stunning examples of ornate beauty. There's a bathhouse in Iran, Kashan, that is so meticulously beautiful, you think it's a sacred place. But what were the hearts that produced these things? There were specific hearts that produced these visual marvels of beauty. You've got to ask yourself the question is, what did these hearts contain to want to produce such beauty? And now I'd like to ask you, look upon the buildings of today. Look upon what we are constructing today. If you go to town, in every major city in the world today, it looks pretty much the same. Skyscrapers, big tall glass mansions, square buildings, concrete. Now ask yourself the question is, what type of hearts are bringing about these ugly structures? So ask ourselves, I earnestly ask you, take motivation from the beautiful architectural pieces that you can still lay your eyes on today. In our tradition, the Islamic tradition, we do not make a distinction between form and content. Form and content is one and the same. If our content is beautiful, then the form in which the content is in should also be beautiful. That is why our scholars of old, you that have one scribe per page of a kitab. So in 1 hour, they finish a kitab of 500 pages. One scribe would focus on one page. And what would you get? You get a marvel of beauty at the end of it. This is what our tradition is very proud about. We're not always worried about the quantity of things, but often the quality of things. Even if it takes time, produce something of quality rather than just quantity. Look at our tradition of our people in the Cape. Our people came down from Indonesia, Malaysia, from India as master artisans, as master carpenters. They produced things of beauty. That's what they were sought after everywhere. They took our deen, the spirit of our deen, and they brought it into their handicraft. And human beings are innately attracted to beauty. The reason that we're attracted to beauty is because we know that our Lord is the most beautiful. And because Almighty Allah has instilled in us the attraction to beauty. We love coming to the masjid because in the masjid there's beauty. There's spiritual beauty, there's sacred beauty, there's tranquility and peace. When we go outside and we're inundated with the dunya, we feel like we need to go invest in it. Because our souls can't take too much of that. There's a hadith of Rasulullah which I think is so stunning. Rasulullah said, beautify your clothes, beautify your homes, for I wish for you to be as a beauty mark to humanity. It's amazing that Rasulullah mentions clothing and homes. These are the things that ornate our societies, the things that ornate our neighborhoods. And we as Muslims, we should stand out like a beauty mark. In our attire, in our speech, in the way that we carry ourselves, in our character, we should be something that is standing out, shining in beauty. People should look at us, as many people have said, and says, I wonder what he's got that's making him stand out like that. It's always been the case in history that we had that. And it's because of the beautiful example that Rasulullah has shown us that we stand out like diamonds in the rough. So let's divert our eyes. Let's divert our eyes away from the ugly. And let's divert our eyes to the beautiful. And what is the beautiful that we should gaze upon in today's society? What should we look for? Iman, belief, trust in Allah, good character, honesty. And I want us to listen to this list very carefully. Iman, trust in Allah, good character, honesty, generosity, beautiful quality, honor, and bravery. When men behave in a masculine nature and women behave in a feminine nature. Spiritual elevation over the elevation of your bank account. I want each one of you ask yourself this. How many of these qualities does society promote today? Does society promote any of these qualities today? Or do they promote greed and hedonism? What are these things being replaced with? I'm sure that the elderly brothers in the Jamaat will realize that these things were more prevalent back in the day. But today, these things are being replaced by something else. It's being replaced by the smartphone, by video games, by the same rehashed movies over and over again. Different actors, but the same storyline. by music that numbs the brain and turns it into sludge, by Instagram and TikTok, cat and dog videos and what they ate for breakfast this morning. That is what's being replaced. And if you think I'm exaggerating, go and chat to your 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old nephews and nieces and see what is predominant in their life. So we are still, I want us to gaze upon the faces of the luminaries of our time and the luminaries of the past. Because they're leaving. My told us taking them back. The luminaries like Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj in Mauritania, Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi in Egypt, Sheikh Sharawi, Mullah Karan, the late Mullah Karan and Sheikh Raj Hendricks. They have left us. They were people that we looked at them and they remind us of Allah. My told us taking them back to himself. You are losing this. Divert your eyes from these other things, my brother. My brothers, push your eyes towards the beautiful faces of the scholars, the places of serenity, nature, stars, the moon, the sky, the gardens. They are there to remind us of the beauty of Allah. My 3-year-old son, from when he was 1, he looks at the moon, he's astonished. Daddy, look at that moon. He's filled with awe of the moon. But somewhere along the line, as we get older, we stop looking at the moon and stop saying Subhanallah. And we stop saying Subhanallah to the stars, but these things are signs of Allah's magnitude. Time is very limited. I'm going to get on to a bit more of the hard-eating things right now. But before I do that, I want to say one last thing. My children and your children should be playing together. There is a battle out there for the minds and hearts of our children. Ask yourselves the question, who's programming your children? How much time do you have with your children compared to the laptop, the tablet, the smartphone, and somebody in school that you don't really know? Ask yourselves the question, who's programming your children? We should love each other enough to say, you know what, I would like my child to play with your child. If we don't do that, we may lose our children to the current zeitgeist and social norms that exist in society. As I've said before, this ummah, as you can see all around you in the media, is becoming the last line of defense for this feeling of fitrah that people follow. Because our deen is a deen of fitrah. So many people are coming to this deen from all over the world. Why? Because the world is becoming so insane that our light is shining the brightest. That is what's happening. Brothers and sisters, in the last moments I had with you, I'm going to discuss the scourge of pornography in our society. No one speaks about it. Everyone's afraid to speak about it. But none of us are immune to it, and we've come across it in some way or form, and heard about it in some way or form. What happens with pornography? Firstly, I want to make it very clear, pornography is fake. It's imitation. It's actually abuse. They found that a large percentage of people involved in pornography are either forced or either in a very desperate situation. There's a small percentage that want to be there. A lot of the women that are involved in it, you're watching the abuse of women, brothers and sisters. I'm not going to go into too much graphic detail, but the graphic is of a very serious nature. The abuse is of a very serious nature. But when you are watching something like this, understand that you could be watching a woman being abused. That is the statistical facts about this type of thing. What does it do to the brain, my brothers? When you watch something like this, you are rewiring your brain. You reprogram your brain. The younger that you start watching such material, the younger and the more immature your brain is during the rewiring or the disordered wiring. So what happens? Almighty Allah has designed our brains with primitive circuits of intimacy. How we should respond to intimacy. how we should respond to the sight of a woman, to the touch of a woman, and being close to a woman. When you engage in things of explicit material online on a screen, your brain is being triggered and wired to respond to a screen. It's learning to respond to a screen, not to a real life, flesh and blood woman or man. So what's the end result of that? The end result of that is, when the time comes that you have to respond to a woman, you can't. Your body physiologically shuts down. Who's getting affected by this? Our young brothers that are just about to get married. 19, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. The average age now that people are accessing material like this is 10. It's very easy now. The days of your friend bringing a magazine to school is over. It's completely over. Unfortunately, this is where you're getting it from now. And it's never been easier. Sometimes you just stumble upon it, you didn't even mean to. The fitna is extremely pernicious at the moment, my brothers. So what does it release? We spoke a couple of months ago about dopamine. I liken pornography consumption. It does the exact same damage to the brain as cocaine consumption. I mentioned this before. They've done the studies, they've done the imaging. The brain shrinks in damage just as it shrinks as if you are smoking cocaine every day. So what does it do? It gives you a high surge of dopamine. What is dopamine? To remind everyone, dopamine is the chemical of motivation and pleasure. Almighty Allah designed in us to be there so we are motivated and pleased by natural, halal and pure things to the right degree, to a healthy degree. When involved with this abomination, it spikes way out of control. It spikes extremely high. The deception in this thing is that when it spikes, it falls down and drops to below baseline. So this is your baseline, this is when you feel good and normal. When you consume this material, your dopamine spikes, you feel really good for a certain moment. But as very soon, a couple of minutes afterwards, you drop down to below your normal level, and what happens? You become depressed. This is the devil in the details, brothers and sisters. The pleasure is fooling you because you're going to land up depressed. This is what is happening. Dopamine is being used and consumed and is becoming exhausted. So you're using up all your chemicals of motivation to watch this filth. So if you exhaust all your dopamine, you've got none left to do the normal things in life. What do you call this? You call it burnout. So let me just clarify. Dopamine gets released with all activity. When you exercise, dopamine gets released. When you eat, dopamine gets released. When you're watching a movie, dopamine gets released. When you're telling a funny joke, things of that nature. If you overindulge in the pleasures of life, let's say you overindulge in the pleasures of life through the week. You're surging dopamine throughout the whole week. And Allah forbid, if you're still topping that off in watching explicit material, you'll have no dopamine left. You'll have very little dopamine left. No wonder we feel like we've got no motivation for ibadah. No wonder we feel like we've got no motivation to fix the drawer that's been broken for 5 years. Or no motivation to play with our children. We just feel exhausted. We feel tired. We feel drained. Perhaps we're not following the beatific values that Rasulullah told us how to live our lives. We're rather diverting our eyes to that which corrupts our heart and soul. Another thing that happens with the watching of this thing is that initially people enjoy it. Initially there's pleasure in it. But like any other drug, it soon becomes mundane. The dopamine does not surge as much anymore. And you stop enjoying it. But just like when you're on your phone, you're scrolling on the news feeds, you're scrolling on Instagram, or whatever. You keep doing it despite knowing it's not pleasurable. So you do it and you do it, but you know, this is not feeling good, but you just keep doing it. This is called addiction. And this is what's happening with the consumption of this material. So people start using this material and getting no pleasure from it, but they can't stop. So what do? What does the addict on the street do? He seeks more. And he seeks more potent drugs. This is called tolerance, which we spoke about last time. And what do these people do is they seek harder, more explicit material online. Now, I'll share a story with you. A very tragic story. The most notorious serial rapist and killer in the world. The day before they put him to death in the United States, he called an interview with a reporter and he said, "Before I die, I want to tell you what made me the way I am." And he said, "I came from a good family. My family was wealthy. I wasn't abused. I wasn't neglected. But one day my friend brought a magazine and I saw something. And because he had an addictive personality, his brain was primed for this. He couldn't control his tendencies. And he gave in to the shaitan. And what happened was this addiction of his, of explicit material, slowly developed into worse and worse forms of this. And soon, he reached such dark places that viewing it on a screen was not enough anymore. And he started to assault, rape, and then murder women. Because of the sanctity of the masjid, I won't say to you how far he went. But if shaitan's job is to humiliate us, he succeeded in this man. Because he started to do things that are completely antithetical to the human conduct, antithetical to the human soul. What did he say to the reporter? He says, "Tomorrow you're going to kill me. What are you going to do about all the other versions of me that have developed because of pornography?" And then they kill him the next day. With an IV line. This is the most prolific serial rapist and killer that we know in our world. I will not mention his name. I was consulting in my rooms once, and a young brother came in with his young wife, a Muslim brother. And they started talking to me, and they just got married. And they said to me, "Look," the wife said, "Nothing's happening. We're struggling." To such a point that they could not even be intimate. I asked the wife to leave the room, and I asked the brother straight, "How long have you been viewing pornography?" And he said, "For too long." I think, if I remember correctly, it was like he's been viewing it for 10 odd years. So what couldn't he do? He could not get aroused like a normal, healthy male. This boy was 21, 22 years old. He could not. When he did, he could not maintain it. To such a point that he could not be intimate with his wife. This caused an enormous strain on a marital life. I can guarantee the Jamaat today that there are countless of young boys dealing with this. It's just that they're not speaking about it. It's happening globally. There's almost like an epidemic of infertility because of things like erectile dysfunction and other sorts of things. And it's because Shaitan has tricked these people to say, "I'd rather be intimate with a screen. I'd rather be looking at a screen. And when Allah Ta'ala gives me a gift of a Wi-Fi, I malfunction." Unfortunately, we make dua for these brothers because sometimes they don't know about this. They don't know that's going to be the end product. They don't know that's going to happen. Just like 50 years ago, people didn't know smoking causes lung cancer. Now they do. And inshallah, after doing it, now you guys know that this thing will destroy your sexual relationship with your wife, and your intimate relationship with your wife. That's without a doubt. It also affects the way we see women. Many of us have daughters. We've seen them grow up from small. We know. My daughter, extremely intelligent, alhamdulillah, dynamic. I would never think that all she is good for one day is to be used by a man. That's what pornography does. It makes you look at women as you would a tool in your toolbox. That's what the studies have proven. You just want to use and abuse and leave. For all of us with daughters here today, we owe it to our daughters to teach our sons. We owe it to our daughters to teach our brothers' sons, to teach all the young men that are in our sphere of influence to divert your eyes from this corruption, to lower your gaze, as the injunction was in the Quran. You know, as you keep watching this material, your nerves start recognizing the material. So the nerves start building connections that make it easier to view again and make it easier to get excited because of the clicking. That's what happens neurologically. What you can do is you're going to break the cycle, my brothers. How do you break the cycle of connection? The only way is to refrain from watching, like any drug, abstinence. That neuronal connections will break eventually. It will deteriorate and fail. Another mechanism that you can do that has been proven is set yourself a goal and a reward for not viewing. So say to yourself, if I get an urge to watch and I don't watch, whatever the reward is, right? A chocolate, whatever the case is. But it's been proven that if you have a reward after not using this material, subhanAllah, the mercy of Allah is such that it makes the action less pleasurable. And it makes it seem like more work to do. This is across the board with any addiction. So set yourself a goal. Say, if I don't use this material, I'm going to reward myself in this way. More importantly, my Torah will reward me for this. What did Rasulullah say about this? Sheikh, how beautiful is the hadith where Rasulullah says to the Sahaba that even being intimate with your wife is a charity. And the Sahaba said, really? You fulfill our desires and it's a charity? And Rasulullah says, yes. Because doing it wrong is a sinful thing. And doing it right is rewardable. SubhanAllah. That is a miracle of hadith. If you look upon it with this type of dynamic, this type of neurological understanding. But let me tell you how to hack the system. This is a beautiful thing that I stumbled across when preparing for this talk. Instead of looking forward to the reward after an action, the beautiful thing about ibadah, the beautiful thing about salah, saum, fasting, charity, sadaqah, zakah, hajj, umrah, dhikr, is that if you tune in with your intention, if your intention is good, your intention is to please Allah, the neuroscientists are calling this the growth mindset. What? There's neuronal circuits in your brain that will allow you to start getting the reward during the action as well as after. So it goes against the model of a bad habit. A bad habit, you only get the reward afterwards. You hate the process, but you only get the reward afterwards. With a good action, look at the mercy of Allah. Double reward. You get the reward and pleasure during the action as well as afterwards. That is why Almighty Allah says in the Holy Quran, really in the remembrance of Allah, your hearts find comfort and peace. Because in that action you will find peace. In that action you will find comfort. Your 20 rak'ahs Taraweeh will become sweet. Your soul every second day will become sweet. People reach this level, Rona? People reach this level where they taste the sweetness of ibadah. What did Ibrahim ibn Adham say in 165 AH? He said, if the kings and their sons knew the sweetness of our ibadah, of our spirituality, they'd come and try and take it from us with swords. We all have the opportunity to do this. We all have the opportunity to not even think of the corrupt in society. We can sit in ibadah and we can taste the beauty of ibadah. There's something, I don't think I wrote it down, but I'm trying to remember it. There's something that the scholar Asqalani mentioned, and he said that in beatific action and righteous deeds, there's a sweetness that becomes your paradise in this world. This is up for grabs, brothers and sisters. This is up for grabs. I want to end off on one thing. This is something I came across dealing with a lot of people that are using drugs. There's a part of the brain, this part of the brain over here, that gets affected by drugs. It's the part of the brain that gets affected the most by drugs. It's a part of the brain that, as I mentioned before, governs decision making, governs judgment, governs the way you think. That is why if someone's using drugs long enough, their parents will say, he's not the same person I knew. The mothers will often say, because it changes. They become someone else. That is why this is the handiwork of Satan. But something occurred to me when I was thinking about that model of damage to the brain. The Almighty Allah says, Almighty Allah will grab the sinners by the forelock. I always think, I wonder why. If this was the center where you make your decisions from, Almighty Allah will grab you from there, drag you to the fire. The angel will grab you from there and drag you to the fire. And something occurred to me as well. That when we are making sujood 5 times a day, we're putting this part of our brain on the floor. We're submitting to Allah. And without us even knowing, we are saying, Ya Allah, this part of my brain that I use to plan, I submit it to the floor to you because you're the best of planners. Now ask yourself, this center of the brain that's so critical in your worship of Allah, this critical section of the brain gets damaged by substances like cocaine, crystal meth, heroin, and you name it, cannabis included, codeine included, and especially what we've been speaking about today. So when you view this material, understand you are compromising your ability to worship Allah. And you're compromising your ability to fulfill the very purpose that you were put on this earth to do. That is the fundamental message that I would like to leave with my dear brothers today. When consuming these things, and remember, it's the young and the old. It's not just the young consuming it. That is the reality. I'll not elaborate too much on that, but I've had many examples of this. Unfortunately, and that is particularly sad. Because if you are reaching your ages of 60 odd, and you're engaging in this, and you make dua for these brothers, Mighty Allah must purify them, inshallah. Mighty Allah may take them, as Rasulullah says, the average age of our ummah must be between 60 and 70 years. And if this bala has fallen upon them during this stage of their life, we all make dua and Mighty Allah lifts it, inshallah. So please, my brothers, take this message to everyone at home, women and men, and use your discretion in terms of how you bring the message across to the young ones. Mighty Allah increase us, inshallah, safeguard us, protect us from this bala, and maybe continue to assist in this regard. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.